he show up or she show up to the project, oh, it's a wrap. It's gonna be great because I know how they do. I know how they operate. And eventually people will long to have you on the project because they understand how you roll. Hey, Cornell Jermaine here, back with another episode. Listen, I'm so excited to have you here back on the channel. Today we're gonna talk about branding. What is your brand? What is branding when it comes to business? Many people hear it, it's a catchphrase here in business and entrepreneurship, but I think many kind of miss what it really means. I think most think that a brand is the logo, the colors, the stationery, maybe even the website or your social media. Those things are the tools and things that you use to maintain connection, and also those things are expressions of your brand, but they're not the brand itself. Your brand is built, and this is true whether you're in business, entrepreneurship, or not. You have a brand, and the brand is built on 5 key elements. And if you are an individual, and I just want you to understand that this applies to you as well. It's not just something for business. If you are an individual walking the face of the earth, you have a brand. If you listen and understand what a brand is, you have a brand. So you don't have to be exchanging money. You don't have to be in commerce to have a brand. You have a brand whether you're in business for yourself or you're working for a corporation. And guess what? The employees of corporations, those who are listening, you need to be just as concerned and just as adamant about securing your brand as business individuals and entrepreneurships, etc. You need to be just as interested in knowing, okay, what is my brand? How do I manage it? How do I sustain it? And what is it built on, etc., etc. Very important, because when you go to the workplace, when you go to the supervisors, when you go to the leadership to pitch or to negotiate your next salary, to negotiate your raise, to negotiate whatever it is, your brand is what's going to ultimately speak the loudest. And the brand that you built in that company thus far ultimately will determine whether or not that corporation will be willing to give you a raise, to give you a new position, to give you the corner office. You get what I'm saying? So don't think that branding is specific to just business owners and entrepreneurs. It's specific to humans, human beings, anybody who's walking, talking, engaging, living on the face of the earth, period. So what is a brand built of? A brand is built first on rapport. Rapport is how you connect, communicate, and understand the feelings, thoughts, needs of a particular individual or group of people. When you build rapport, it's about you being vulnerable and the other individual or individuals being vulnerable with you. And ultimately, rapport is what builds the connection and thus the trust that you need in order to be in business or in order to have a leader or corporate hierarchy that wants you to be on their team, etc., etc. So the rapport that you build is where brand starts. So if you're one that has been known to be lazy and known to be half committed when it comes to completing tasks, if you're one that is known to not communicate well or not follow through with your commitments, then you are telling an individual or a corporation or a customer what your brand is. And ultimately, if you've done that over a period of time, you've already solidified your brand to those individuals. And unfortunately, your brand is not one that they may want to talk about. It's not one that they may be adamant about doing business with. You get what I'm saying? So you've solidified your brand by the rapport that you've built. The second way that you secure your brand is being results oriented. Now, we talked about if you're one who doesn't follow through and doesn't get things done, that you've already secured your brand, and thus you've never even gotten to the second step of building a brand, which is results oriented. Or you've built the brand and the brand is not likely to succeed or not likely to be the one that is chosen over others because you're not results oriented. If you're going to build a successful brand, you must build rapport and you must be results oriented. This means that when you involve yourself in a project, when you involve yourself in a business, when you involve yourself in a task, you are there to get the job done, period. And if you can't get the results because maybe your skill sets are not what they need to be, then you're honest about that. and you find a way to get it done, or you find who can get it done and employ them. But either way, you're results oriented. And if you're gonna build a brand that's gonna be successful, results is what your customer is gonna be wanting. Aside from anything else, they don't really honestly care about the color scheme of your website. They don't really care about the logo, truthfully. And quiet as it's kept, they really don't even care about the product or service. They want the result. So you must build rapport and you must be results oriented. Thirdly, if you're gonna build a successful brand, you must be attentive to the needs, thoughts, and feelings of your customer. Now, I initially was gonna say that was gonna be for the business people, entrepreneurs, etc., because most times when you think of a customer, you think of somebody who's doing transaction. They're rendering a service for money. They're exchanging a product for money. Thus, they have a customer that they're serving. However, we understand because of past videos that we've done, and if you have not seen it, be sure to check it down in the link below. But we talked about the three major players in any transaction, and that's the business, the product, the customer. And whether you're in business or not for yourself, whether you're in entrepreneurship or not, you have a customer. I'm gonna preach it. I'm gonna preach it until you get tired of hearing it. And then when you get tired, I'm gonna preach it again. You have a customer. If you're going to a corporation, I don't care if you're on an assembly line or in a boardroom, wherever you are, if you're going to work, punch a clock, whether you're salary, hourly, whatever the case may be, if you're an employee, you're still in business and you have a customer. And your job, if you're going to solidify your brand, is to be attentive to the needs, thoughts, feelings, and the desires of that customer. Why? Because once you're in tune with that, you know how to better serve them. And in serving them well, guess what? You keep them as a customer, which is the objective. That's the objective. Now, we understand that in the framework of business and entrepreneurship, because if you're in business, you have a customer, you want to keep them because you want to stay in business. When it comes to an employee, sometimes, and especially in this generation, people run through jobs like they run through water. You know what I mean? So there may be a group of people who maybe you're not necessarily as interested in keeping your customer happy. You just want that check because, I ain't gonna be here long, no way. I ain't trying to work for them forever. Sometimes, especially our young people have this attitude as if, because they got bigger plans and a bigger vision, I ain't trying to work here for the rest of my life. You just think you're there for a check, but no, you're really building your brand. You're working at the local convenience store right now, and no, you don't want that to be the sum of your career. And yes, you can have bigger aspirations and bigger things that you want to do in life, dreams, whatever they may be, but where you are right now is still building the brand that you're going to carry into the next opportunity. And if you treat this job just because it's low paying, small business, maybe the staffing is not as great, maybe the leadership is not as great, if you treat this job as if it has no value, you ultimately dismiss all the things that it can teach you on your journey of success. You ultimately dismiss all the lessons that you could learn that will build you to become a better employee or professional for the next opportunity. So your brand is still important, even if you're in a job that you maybe don't like or you don't plan on staying in long. Don't treat it haphazardly or as if it doesn't matter or as if it's disposable because you got bigger things in the works. Treat it with the same commitment and be attentive. That's what we're talking about, to the need of that customer, which is who? That business owner, that supervisor, that manager, making sure that you're serving them well while you're in that position. So that when this phase of your career is over, you now have built a rapport that if you ever need to come back, which you may not, you could. Or 30 years later, you have a child of your own that needs a job in this small business is still in the neighborhood, still in the community. And guess what? Your teenager now needs a job. Let me call Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. They still open, see if they need somebody. I used to work for them back in the day. You have an open door where you can go back and make that call. And guess what? Because your brand was solidified and successful when you were there 30 years ago, now they're more apt to say, yeah, bring them on in. I would love to meet them. We can have them do such and such, or we can have her do such and such. Why? Because your brand precedes you. Now, the next generation is benefiting from the brand that you built 30 plus years ago. Do you understand how this is working? Do you get this? It's so important. So when it comes to building a successful brand, we talk about building rapport, being results oriented, and attentive to the needs, thoughts, feelings, and desires of your customer. The next thing that is very important when it comes to brand building, and we're talking about a successful brand, is never wavering in your values. Now, when it comes to branding, your brand is really built on your promise. What do you promise? And your promise is built on your values. So your promise may be is I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to fulfill the tasks that I've been assigned. I'm going to put my all into making sure that this project is successful. That may be your promise. And get it, that might not necessarily be spoken. You might not necessarily say this is what I'm going to do. But when you receive the assignment, when you deliver it in such a way that speaks those things, oh, this person is timely, this person is serious, this person sees it through. Now you're building that expectation for your brand, which is ultimately your promise. But it's really built on your values. So what are your values? What do you value in life as it pertains to your business, your profession, your career, etc.? These are the things that you need to understand and that you need to build upon so that you can have that unspoken promise when you walk in the room. That when you show up, they know, oh, we getting the job done. When he show up or she show up to the project, oh, it's a wrap. It's gonna be great because I know how they do. I know how they operate. And eventually people will long to have you on the project because they understand how you roll. This is how I roll. You get what I'm saying? And all that means is this is my brand and this is who I am. Now, do you have hiccups? Will there be hiccups? Absolutely. Will you mess up? Absolutely. So we're not saying that your brand has to be perfect. Just perform. You don't have to be perfect. Just perform and perform in excellence. And excellence is not necessarily perfection. Excellence is, hey, I'm doing this to the best of my ability. There may be pieces missing. There may be things that may be barely dotted and T's I forgot to cross, but my fault. I acknowledge that. And next time, I'm not gonna forget it. Next time, I'm gonna make sure it's done. So stop striving for perfection and strive for performance. Strive for progress. Strive for proficiency. So the last thing, we talked about the brand, and this is building a successful brand, whether you're in business, you're an employee, etc., etc. Building a successful brand is built on rapport, the results that you bring, how attentive you are with your customer, and the values that you have. The last thing that you need to build your brand is to do it, all of these things that I just mentioned, consistently. And guess what? Your brand will be solidified in the marketplace. I hope this helps you. The main thing I want you to get is whether you want to or not, whether you're intentional about it or not, you're building a brand. And some of you may have built a brand and you're not aware of it. What are people saying about you when you're not in the room? What do people think about you when they hear your name dropped on a project or dropped in a space where you're coming together to collectively work on a mission? That is your brand. And if you're hearing or people are saying things that are not necessarily what you feel best represent who you are, then now it's time to rebrand. You get grace. There's a grace that you have that if you have unconsciously built a brand that you know does not serve you and represent you well, you have grace to now rebrand yourself. But you gotta start. So your brand is built on rapport, the results you bring, the attention that you give, the never failing of your values. Doing it over and over and over again. No matter who you're with, where you are, what you're doing. Over and over and over, over and over. And guess what? The more you do it, it almost turns into like this hypnotic, mesmerizing thing where people are just taken by you because you're doing it consistently and they love it about you. And as a result, you'll build something that will not only be successful, but it will last generations to come. Generations yet unborn will be able to build, will be able to stand, if you've done it correctly, on the brand that you're building today. I hope this helps you. If you've liked this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone that needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. I say it every video, and I'm gonna say it again because I want you to get it, mesmerized. I'm not gonna play with y'all. subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you same place, same time next week. Until then, take care.